So, my dear Taurus, you're getting today your full moon reading. You have reached your opposite sign, which is Scorpio, and so the sun is in Scorpio, or rather I say that when we look at the sun, we see the constellation Scorpio behind it. And the same now then with the moon. When we look at the moon, we see the constellation Taurus behind it, and in between is the Earth, right? So Scorpio gives the light to you, and the Earth is in between. So sometimes there can be also then a lunar eclipse, or the opposite. Sometimes there can be then a solar eclipse when the moon is here with the sun, and so sun and moon are then in the next biggest reading for you, the new moon in your sign. So just that you understand how I work. I do work with astrological events as well, because I think this is what the tarot cards in the first place are all about. They are explaining celestial moments and how significant they can be. Now, Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, and Pluto is, of course, the shadow side and also the mystic, right? That is really letting us know things can end, and in such a way that when we let go of our physical body, we are liberated and we go to a new cycle, which then the 13 here becomes the 4, which is the Emperor, which is the first zodiac sign. And so always remember that. Now, Scorpio is the 8th house of reincarnation, and so you are gonna recognize that this moment is quite intense for you. Now, you are ruled by Venus, and you are the 2nd house of worth, right? You like really good things, and you, through Venus, love beauty and of course also love. And so here comes then this constellation together. They are opposites. They are both fixed signs, right? This is the fixed sign of fall, and you are the fixed sign of spring. And so here speaks just this, a story in itself, right, to you today at this very moment, because we're gonna have the full moon in a few hours, and that's what I do, right? I actually create really a moment where I can feel this. Now, the yoga position for Scorpio is Scorpio, bringing your feet up above your head into Vrikshasana. We are letting go of the ego and are transformed like the phoenix out of our subconscious. Pisces here, noon, because the card in Hebrew is called noon. I gave you a movement because I don't want you to sit between two pillars anymore. You become one pillar where you inhale, go up to the information, and exhale, you go down and bring the information down. And this is your job, right? You are the Hierophant, the high priest that brings us the spiritual information as good as you can bring it down to us. And so here we see this story unfolding today, this really moment in time and space, because a full moon lasts maybe really 2 hours of 100%, right? We're not going to see when it's 99%. It's just hard for us to actually see that, but 100% really exists only for 2 hours. So this to the sun and the moon right now. And as you can see, I placed the card to the right because we're going out, right, to the human experience, right? We want to show ourselves in that opposite sign. We're getting the light from the opposite sign, and so we are exposing ourselves. And so that's why I'm going to the right to the full moon and to the left to the new moon, because on the new moon we have both sun and moon in our sign, right? And it's important for you to understand that's when you're coming home. That's the month of, that's your month, right? Where you can plant a new seed. Your court card is the King of Pentacles. And as you can see, he sits facing the left. And the left is again the spiritual soul consciousness that we want to embody and to handle this amount of money that, of course, Taurus is the institution, are the banks, are the finances. You need to have a higher consciousness that is actually bringing you the information. This court card is between April 10th and May 9th. If your birthday is before or after, please look in the description below. I have listed all the court cards and the cards of their position for you today in this reading. Back to the last reading, we had Libra Sun giving Taurus Moon the light, and the message was your next full moon will be a gathering of like-minded spirits. Yeah, you did get the information that the awakening is the gathering. You had twice the gathering, and so I can see that this is a very important message for you, right? Because I just did the German reading. I'm German, but I used to live 17 years in New York, and so I feel like I still want to do English readings as well. And in the German reading, I saw unfolding. I'm not kidding. I saw unfolding things that happened outside in the street and to my neighbor. And it was so accurate. It was so clearly, so to the point, right, what I saw happening with police cars, with the sign Sagittarius, with like 30 swords, with like a drama unfolding that I even know the details because they're our neighbors, right? And I was literally like, oh my God, the story is right here. Meanwhile, outside it's happening. And so I'm just letting you know that that was pretty intense for me today to recognize how accurate these cards really are. So one more card that I am pulling in front of the camera is the call. The call is the number 20 in the major arcanas. And the major arcanas are 22 steps of going from the soul out into the world and becoming this personality. And so the 20, I choose the 20 because the 20 is connected with Pluto. And Pluto, right, is actually going next year for 20 years into the sign of Aquarius. And so I'm going to pull the Lifruma Healing Oracle here on this position, because this is my newest deck, and I don't know why I'm doing it in front of the camera. I mean, I could pull the card, but it just happened like that. So I felt like, okay, I do it in front of the camera. I want you to see that this card comes directly now in the reading. Wow, the number 9, which is the completion, Hegel. Hegel is what is then that empowerment of water turning into ice, and sometimes like the size of the fist, right? It's like that powerful message from the sky, and people back then, they were literally like, oh my God, the gods, right? And so Hegel and the number 9. Now with the 20, the call, we get a 29. And I use numerology because numerology created actually the cards, right? And so the numbers are really important, and I love to work with the numbers. So the 29 is, of course, then here the number, when we calculate it together, the 11 comes out of that, and the 11 is a portal. So there is a portal speaking to you directly in this call, Hegel, right? And I'm gonna read to you the message. A cosmic crisis has been created. All the time, Aumbla licks the frozen salty rime to form the milk of existence that sustains. Ymir, but Ymir's not here anymore. His skull is now the heavens, and his icy tears rain down on Midgard. Cascading and crashing, darting and dashing into our faces, forcing painful stabbing wounds that must be felt before they melt and flow away. Uncomfortable truth. Hail, weathering. Wow, the stabbing, right? It's making me remind to the 30 swords that came up in the German reading, and it's quite intense, right? So even it continues a little bit here in your reading that you are facing uncomfortable truth, which creates though a portal, right? The two then creates these two lines, and you see the H, right? You see here the portal, and we're gonna look now, of course, what this portal is wanting to tell you. So we begin on the position of the Fool, that foolish moment or that foolish idea that we get when we recognize that in our conscious mind we experience the Six of Swords. And of course, you starting with the swords as well, right? So right here you have 6 swords. Now, the beautiful thing here is that these are the most beautiful swords there are in all of the swords. Because it's connected with the lovers, the 6 is that self-love that I have found. And you can see there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 crossings. So again, we have the 9, 6 swords, but 9 crossings as a pattern. And inside there are 4 little green petals. Now, Scorpio, which is the number 13, becomes a 4 if liberated. And so inside of this pattern is the 4, is the Emperor, is that new birth that we can experience, right? And so here you are seeing the 9 in the crossing. And you can see how this Fool is actually going to the left. And the left is that soul energy. But you are going out. You are showing yourself. You are going actually now out into the full moon. And so deep within there is something that is saying, I want to learn. I want to understand, because the Fool is connected with Uranus. And Uranus is the one that is actually starting a new energy. And the 6 of Swords is connected with the constellation Mercury in Aquarius. And so Aquarius, right, the call of Pluto bringing you 9, saying there is a completion now, maybe with this full moon, and you're gonna recognize after that you actually going back in again, right, into your new moon. Then on the position of the Magician comes here the Ancient Ones. 1-1. You get an 11 portal right away, and of course now the 6 of Swords is framed with an 11-11 portal. Right? Because we got here 11, the 2 and the 9 is 11. And so here again, a 1-1, it's also 11, or we have 4 times the 1, right? However you want to see it. And we recognize that the 6 of Swords are somehow protected, right? This thought in your mind that is coming out of you today is literally letting you know, well, now be inspired, because that's what the magician does. And the magician is connected with Mercury. And here we have Mercury in Aquarius. And Mercury is the mind, is the language. And so the ancient ones are talking to you clearly inside of your head. Learn, study, understand how all of this is functioning. Because I saw it witnessed today, really literally in the German reading. And I was amazed, right? Because it's making me realize, oh my God, these readings aren't just like, okay, here I am babbling and telling you stories. It's really happening out there. Then I got on the position here of the magician a clarification, because these are oracle cards, right? And the Emperor came up here in the Mother Peace Tarot. And this is Alexander the Great. And Alexander the Great wanted to own the whole world. He was almost like a maniac. And so recognize that the 11 or the 1-1 here with the 4 is creating something where Aries as a court card is the first house of self. So you self are wanting to conquer things, and you need to study for that more. And you need to recognize that the inspiration to do so comes because the ancient ones are behind you. They support you and they give you the information, right, through Mercury. And an emperor who is sitting here in the square is, yes, connected with that square kind of thinking, the 4 elements. But also remember that the 13 becomes a 4. So it's very, very strong, right? The message already, right away, that you're learning, that you're understanding, that not everything can be just done the way you want. You have to recognize that the emperor can become a tyrant, right? And so just be aware that when you have the ancient ones behind you, that you're not abusing that power ever. On the position of the High Priestess comes the Chariot, comes Cancer, comes the success to look for love. And the 7 and the 2 creates a 9. And so the High Priestess is connected with the moon, with the subconscious, with your feelings. And so in a way there is a 9-9 portal now, right? Because your intuition is telling you, focus on the inner eye, the third eye. Because the 6 is also the third eye that sees self-love on a very high level. And particularly the swords are mental. And so the 9 here brings you the completion in seeing your intuition outright, looking for love, searching for love, right? Because the Chariot is the Hermes energy, it's the victory, it's the triumph, right? And so you are understanding now that something is talking to you and saying, well, you gotta see that the ancient ones are helping you to come from 1, the magician, into 9, the completion of the hermit, right? Which is up in the mountain again. So just see that and recognize that. Then on the position of the Empress is also a state of consciousness still, comes the Hanged One, the Hanged Man. Le Pendu here in French. And we see that she is sitting up here, the Empress, and she is the number 3, and the 12 becomes a 3 as well. So there's a 3-3 portal supporting you in bringing the idea of a higher consciousness into the world, because that's what the upside down positioning means. He's not there because he just feels like. He's there in a very conscious way, the same the yogi goes into a headstand and he's putting himself into a state of consciousness that is then helping him to meditate. And so is here the Hanged Man. The Hanged Man is not some, oh, he's just hanging there and whatever. It's a state of consciousness that is letting you know you are seeing now things from a completely different perspective. And so that's what the Empress is giving you as that new inspiration, as that new birth, as that new creativity that wants to come through to you. On the position then of here the Hierophant, right, comes the Five of Swords. And so you have 11 swords. Now this is Mercury in Aquarius and this is Venus in Aquarius. Well, guess what? You are ruled by Venus, right? Venus is your planet. And now Venus is letting you know, do not quarrel, do not fight, do not see things, because there's a 5-5 portal here. We had a 3-3 portal here with the Empress. And now you, the High Priest, is getting a 5-5 portal. And so here you understand all of a sudden that the spiritual message behind this is to be in control, because that's what the 3 stages are here for. The 3 stages here. And the 3 people here, the triangle that's pointing up. Control yourself. Know the spiritual message and live by it. But it's not easy because this is happening in your mind. There is something in your mind that is not feeling really good, even though you're studying. You're feeling something is off. And of course, there are 11 swords now. 11 swords, right? A portal again. So Hegel is coming down. Hegel is saying, well, have a look. Have a real look at what your calling is. Then on the position of the King of Pentacles, which is now in the center of this reading, comes the Four of Cups. Now we have Cancer because the Four of Cups is connected with Moon in Cancer. And Moon in Cancer comes in the second next reading. So maybe you want to have a look at that reading, right? Maybe there is a message for you as well. But Moon in Cancer is that moment of recognize that you are the second house of self-worth. You have everything you need. You get more. But you're not even seeing that you're getting more. You're just seeing what you have and you're not happy. You're bored even. You have so much that you're actually not realizing what's happening here. That you are complaining and that you are unhappy and that you are fighting with yourself first, right? Because the others are us. And so the 4 and the 2 creates a 6. And so the 6 of Swords are letting you know, learn, understand how all of this works here. That's why I'm doing these readings, because I want to understand what is all this about. And so you are called to learn more about your emotional side, because the 4 is again the Emperor that came up. And the Emperor is sometimes acting like this. Oh, well, I have everything, and yeah, I get another cup, and yeah, whatever. And so, you know, what's the thing? The big deal about it, right? And you have Cancer as a major arcana, the Chariot, the success in your intuition, and now you're getting more, and it's almost like, oh, well, maybe I'm acting on it. No, learn from it as much as you can learn, because this is important. It's on your position as the king, right? Unless you maybe the Queen of Wands or the Knight of Swords, right? Because those are the overlapping court cards that you maybe have to look if this date is not working for you. Then on the position of the Scorpio, right, which is in the sun, comes the Hierophant, comes you. You are coming up, the Hierophant. And the Hierophant in this deck is the number 5, right? And so you have a 5-5 portal framing the 4, which becomes the 6 with you, right? And so recognize here the 5-5, right? You can stay stuck in the 4, but you can also, if you take really action about how you handling your life, you can turn into a 6, which is then the next zodiac sign, and that's Gemini. And Gemini, right, is the lovers, and here is the 6, which is connected with Gemini. And who knows, maybe in your next life you're going to be a Gemini, right? So sometimes I'm like wondering, why am I incarnated in this zodiac sign? And there is maybe a succession through the zodiac signs that you learn all perspectives, right, through all the zodiac signs. And that's why we learn to be in the light, right, through our opposite signs, so we understand what that means, that opposite. So now here comes the Hierophant, right, in the Hermann Handel Tarot. Now I'm going to show you in your deck the Scorpio position. Here is with the white horse and the flag. We know that from Rider-Waite, but he's going to the right, right? In some decks, Scorpio or the death card is going to the left. So it's very fascinating to watch all these different decks and how they interpreted the meaning of the card, right? Because to the right is that human action oriented path, and to the left is that passive spiritual path that you always are and always will be. And so the 13 plus the 5 is the 18, which is the moon. And the 18 becomes a 9. But I can also do here the 13, but I can also turn the 13 in a 4, and the 4 and the 5 is the 9, right? So however you feel like making this transition, right, through the moon, through this full moon, you are recognizing that you are learning to not fight deep within you anymore, right? Because the moon is in your sign today and it's the full moon. And so recognize also that this in a way becomes like a 54, right? And that's a 9 as well. But this is swords and this is cups, so I don't calculate that together. So notice what's happening here, right? Notice that you are getting here a 9, and the 9 is again Hegel, is again something needs to come down, that you are recognizing the force, right? The force that is giving you a deeper understanding on how this universe works. Then on the position of the moon card, right, which is here in this deck, again the same like a Rider-Waite, it's just a little more golden. You can see here the light in the gold, comes the Dream Oracle, and it's the number 64, the Woodwives and the adaptability. Now we see here the 6 and the 4, that's the Lovers, Gemini, and 4, that's Aries, right? The Emperor, and the Emperor was here, right? Adaptability, don't become too rigid, don't become too complacent, because you have the Ancient Ones behind you like the Magician, right? And don't become complacent because you learned everything and you're still learning, and the 6 is in there. Calculated together, we get a 10. The 10 and the 18 becomes the 9, is a 19. The 19 becomes a 10. So there's the 10 left. And the 10 is a new cycle. A new cycle, the path out of the subconscious, past the wolf and the dog, and then past the towers up into the moon, is the path of consciousness, right? Understanding that consciousness is very important in our brain. We're evolving further and further and deeper and deeper. Now, because this is also an oracle card, I picked another card from the Mother Peace Tarot, and we get the Tower. Now, in the German deck came the Tower as well, but on the position of the Fool. And I was like, oh my God, it begins right away. And then, of course, the 30 swords, right? Now, lucky you have only 11 swords, but it's still enough. And 11 is a powerful number because even we have Ace, the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5, the 6, the 7, the 8, and the 9, and the 10. There is a hidden number, and that's the 11. The 11 is in the Tree of Life dot. And that is the receiving, right? Receiving the knowledge, receiving on a physical and on a psychical level, the knowledge that's coming. And it's the knowledge that you are getting. Because you're the Hierophant, you're getting the knowledge, right? You're getting the knowledge because it's like you gotta learn more about, right, Aquarius, because we had here Mercury in Aquarius coming, but also learning that the Emperor needs to understand how the ancient ones work, and if I calculate them together, I get a 5, and that's you, right? The 5 are the 5 chakras, are the 5 senses, and so learn about it and understand it, because here we have Mercury, right? And so now you get here Mars rules the Tower. And Mars is action, is war. And we know there is a war. And this Hierophant is a Jewish energy, right? We have the grandfather, we have the father, and we have the child. We have the number 3 as that succession. The number 3 that is bringing you always an understanding through the succession, right? The 3 is giving birth to the new child. I mean, here there are 3 men, but usually the couple creates that new child. And so you're getting a very strong message, right, today on this full moon. And you see now that here the 10 and the 16, right, because we had the 10 left here. The 10 and the 16, the 16 is a 7. The 10 and the 7 is the 17. 17 is the star, is Aquarius, is the hope. We never let go of the hope, because even here, whatever is falling apart, whatever needs to go, right? Because in this dimension, we have the dualities, and this is what the 2 pillars are. The 2 pillars are inhale and exhale, right? And so we learn to understand that then the 17 becomes an 8, and the 8 is that infinite exchange, constant exchange between inhale, exhale, right, left, up, down. So here, just recognize this is what the moon is bringing through the card of the moon. Then on the position of the sun, right, the sun card, which is the child sitting on the horse, right? So the 10, and here the eye of the soul, the 14. The 14 is Sagittarius, right? Sagittarius then becomes also a 5. And so the 19 becomes a 10. The 10 and the 5 is 15, which is Capricorn, which is the social status, which is the devil, which is the attachment to things. And that we cry because sometimes things really fall apart, must fall apart, because it's just what's given here, right? In this dimension, it's like when you watch how we evolve here, it's like you are either eating or being eaten, right? And that's quite brutal. So there is a lot of crying happening on the position of the sun, because the sun right now is in Scorpio, ruled by Pluto, and Pluto is that huge transformation, is seeing the shadow side, is also seeing the mystical side, and sometimes that makes us really cry, right? And the world is the eye of the beholder, right? The world, when we hold the whole world in our heart, we can see that we cry, but we also have liberation, we have the butterflies, we have that energy that is letting us know, well, even though you have the 10, right, and the 14 is the 24, which then creates the 6, right, and the 6 is again the 6 of swords, right, and the 6 is the understanding that you have those 4 cups with you as the 2. The 6 is in your consciousness, feeling deep within that you want to connect. Now here I picked as well a Mother Peace Tarot, and here comes Gemini, the Lovers. Look at that. So the 6 is here, right, and because you have here the 10, and then of course with the 14 is the 24 is the 6, or we do 10 and the 5, which is the 15, and 15 calculated together is the 6 again. So here we have a 6-6 portal with this 6, right, and your 6, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 times the 6, and 4 times the 6 is having the heart to see how magic love can be, right? And so here you see how this beautiful card is giving you a very abstract energy, but it's like you can see there is a wall here, there's a wall here, there's a portal, there's a cup, and there's the black, and there's the, I mean, you see this is it's like I don't even want to explain it to you. I want you to look at it and be like, wow, what an amazing Lovers card. And right, so there's a 6-6, and the 6-6 is clear. It's like, here I am understanding the 6. The 6 is important. The 6 is the love, is the self-love that we want in this world, because the 6 is in the Tower as well, but it becomes the 7. And then on the last position, the position of the World, you have the Emperor one more time. And this is really fascinating, right? Because you had the Emperor here, and now you have the Emperor again on the position of the World. So in a way, Scorpio, which becomes the 4, is letting you know that, yeah, you got to really understand what the 4 means. You got to really understand that here also the 4 of Cups, right? So you have 1, 2, 3 times the 4. And the 4 is always the heart, right? But the 4 is also the 4 elements and the squareness and that holding on to, well, I am here in this dimension, right? I have the right to do whatever I want to do. And so Saturn is ruling the world, right? And the world here comes and brings you again Mars, right? And so here is Mars. And here is Mars. So Mars, 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 right? There is like an intensity. There is something that is saying, well, look at this, because the world, the 21, becomes a 3, and the 4 becomes a 7. And the 7 is always the Chariot, right? Cancer. The one that's looking for love. The one that is love, right? The healer. The healer that brings you even the moon in Cancer, in the second next reading, right? And so become the healer by uniting with the Empress, and the Empress brought you the Hanged Man, is a number 3 as well, right? So unite the 4 with the 3 and become then a 7, because the 7 is letting you know that's the success in your crown chakra. But also the 7 is the communication to a higher consciousness, and that's what you're doing, right? You are getting the information and bringing it to the people, and that's why you have the number 5, because it's that human perspective that is talking here to you, right? The human that you are, and teaching the people the message that you're getting, the light that you're seeing, right? And that you understand the tears, but you also understand the liberation, and that this full moon is really intense and is really letting you know, well, guess what? The 4 little petals in here are connecting you with this card, right? And so understand that everything is interconnected. Understand that you are learning and understanding more and more about how all of this is influencing us, because Scorpio is influencing you. Scorpio is bringing you the 4, right? And 4 is the Emperor. 4 is that personality that says, well, look at me, I am the Emperor. And so the death of your physical body is bringing you into the next body, into the next round, into the next level of understanding. And I think this is what this reading is telling you. Understand the soul's purpose. She's looking over, and the eye is looking directly at you and is saying, well, understand that everything has its purpose, even the atrocity that people do, right? And even the difficulty when things break apart, but also then the love that comes and brings you this eclectic, interesting card on your full moon. Wow, what a interesting and amazing reading. And understand, right, the 9. The 9 is the Hegel. The Hegel is that moment where water that is so healing can also become a weapon, become like painful, right, when the Hegel hits our skin. And so the message is like, somehow the healing is coming, somehow the water is coming, but it's also somehow involved with a little pain. And so you gotta wake up and you gotta see how all of this is really working with you now, right? And understand where you can fill in the blanks. So I wish you a beautiful full moon celebration, and I hope I see you, of course, in the next reading, because that's when we get the sun in Sagittarius. Until then, I thank you so much for being with me. Namaste.